Okay, our first presentation will be Arenas of the World Hockey Association. It's by Benoit Clairoux. Benoit was born in Montreal and he grew up in Quebec City, where he became a huge fan of the Quebec Nordiques. After studies in graphic design and history, he authored a book and website about the Nordiques. He's most interested in the history of the World Hockey Association, and he's one of the organizers of the WHA reunion in Quebec City, which will take place on September 30th and October 1st of this year. Benoit?
Okay, so you should be queued up if you go to share screen. Oh. Share screen. Should be able to go to begin from, and then they can see it on.
Do you want to start it?
How do I start? I don't present.
Actual beginning.
Okay. And then
All right.
you can just click across.
Okay. Just to check. Okay, it works. All right. Well, is it recording?
Yep.
Yes.
Process. Okay, thank you very much. Yes, World Hockey Association. I love it. It's a great league. Of course, didn't last very long, but so many things to say, so many things to tell, and especially about the arenas. I have to make it very quick because in only 7 seasons, there were 16 different franchises, 28 teams, 29 cities, 35 arenas, including playoffs, and I have what, 25 minutes. So
we're ahead of schedule.
Oh, you can have one now.
okay, so I have more minutes. All right. Okay, I don't know how many pictures I have, but don't worry, we'll get through it. Maybe the best way, listen to me and check out the recording afterwards for the pictures, because there's a lot. When I do something, I always do it precisely with a lot of stuff. Of course, you know the story about the WHA. Some of the teams played in arenas that were already used by NHL teams. So I will just start talking about these arenas. Of course, one of them was the Boston Garden. It's the New England Whalers who played there at first. They played for 2 seasons. The Boston Garden was built in it was open in 1928, of course, for the Boston Bruins. So the Whalers arrived in 72. They played 2 seasons, parts of 2 seasons there. You see the opening face-off of the first game with Ted Green and Derek Sanderson taking the official face-off with Gary Davidson. He was the president of the league throwing the puck. So, of course, it worked okay. They had maybe 10,000 people a game, 8,000 people a game, but there were the Bruins. There were also the Boston Braves of the American Hockey League. So there was a lot of hockey at that time at the Garden. So they moved away. The Whalers moved away, and of course, the Garden was closed in '95 and demolished. Unfortunately, the picture is there, so I cannot see it. I think it was demolished in '98. So anyway, a great building, of course, the Boston Garden, but we have so many more arenas to talk about, so I have to do it a bit quicker. Then there was also Maple Leaf Gardens. The Toronto Toros played there, but also the Ottawa Nationals. They played a few playoff games in '73. And of course, the building still stands, but it's not as it used to be. It's now the Mattamy Athletic Center, something like that. So yeah, the Toros plays there. They had to ask permission to Harold Ballard. It was tough. I mean, I believe Harold Ballard removed the cushions from the player benches before each game. There were only a few number of doors that were open. I mean, petty stuff like that happened a lot with Harold Ballard. So even like in Boston, they had decent crowds, but it couldn't last, so the team moved away. Pacific Coliseum in Vancouver, of course, built in '68. It's still used. It's part of the Pacific National Exhibition. And yeah, the Stanley Cup was there for the first game of the Vancouver Canucks. It hasn't been back since, unfortunately. Well, anyway, they didn't win it. They haven't won it yet. So it's home, of course, of the Vancouver Canucks. It's still there, but the Vancouver Blazers played there for 2 seasons. They had Blazer Reds or Blazer Girls, I don't know what, but still, again, 7,000 or 8,000 people a game. Okay, but not enough, you know, to sustain the team there. So after 2 years, it moved away. So you see the pattern. After a few years in the city, the team would move. And finally, well, I think just trying to change. It won't change. Okay, Madison Square Garden. Great arena, of course. 68, built just after the Pacific Coliseum. I think it's the 4th Madison Square Garden. Anyway, it's not at Madison Square anymore, but still it's a name that resounds even today. So the WHA tried to make it in New York. It didn't. There was a first team in '72, the Raiders. Very small crowds, but they had to pay all the ushers at every game, so they lost a ton of money. They tried to rebrand the team. They called it the Golden Blaze in '73. They had the Hockey Spectacular. They had 4 teams, and maybe they had 7,000 or 8,000 people that game. But after that, it went downhill, and again, the team moved away. So not a lot of luck in these NHL arenas. So let's talk now about the old barns. Most of them, you know, were temporary arenas for the WHA teams, but still they have lots and lots of history about them. The first one, the oldest one, is the Boston Arena, built in 1909. So the Whalers played a few games there because, of course, there were so many teams playing at the Boston Garden. You couldn't have all the dates. And it's still used by, I think it's Northeastern University. So it's still used. So thank God for universities because they keep the old arenas in shape. So voila, Boston Arena. So a special oval, well, the ice is a special shape. Sometimes, you know, some of these arenas were smaller, had smaller rings, but this one, it was more rounded, you know, in the corners. So not much corners, more oval. So next arena, Edmonton Gardens, very small arena, only 5,000 seats, but still it was home to the Edmonton Oilers for 2 seasons. Of course, it was built also for the rodeo. It was host to the Memorial Cup. So a very small arena, but still the people really liked it. They built the Northlands Coliseum just across the street. We'll talk about the Northlands later on. It was used during the Commonwealth Games in '78, and it was demolished in '82. They tried to implode it, but it didn't work. So they had to bring it down, you know, piece by piece. So anyway, so it was a tough little thing, this Edmonton Gardens. Eastern States Coliseum in Springfield, Massachusetts. It's the Big E, the Eastern States Exhibition, the exposition. So it's still used. Maybe not for hockey, but still, it's still standing. It's a very nice old arena. And of course, the Springfield Indians played there lots of years. And you see the fellow on the picture on the bottom right. It's Eddie Shore, who's teaching how to skate to a young lady. So Eddie Shore, of course, that was his home Eastern State Coliseum. So the Whalers played the '74 playoffs there. And also the following season before the new arena in Hartford was completed. Next, after the Eastern States Coliseum, what do we have? Do we have something? Oh, sorry. Sometimes it's a bit slow. So, okay, I like St. Paul, but there's another one before that. How can I do something better than that. I mean, I'm trying with the keys, but it's not working.
Was it up, maybe?
Try tapping up P.
Bottom left? Bottom left.
Okay. Okay, the arrows are there. Okay, let's do that. Okay, there's a few more. Sorry. Okay, now we'll be okay. Just to make sure. All right. Okay, so Varsity Arena in Toronto, 5,000. Okay, that's because you like it. Okay. I thought there was something wrong with the presentation. Sorry. So yes, once again, thank God for the University of Toronto. It's keeping it in shape. So it was built in 1926, and it's still used by the university. The Toronto Toros played their first season there. Of course, it was way too small, so they had to go to Maple Leaf Gardens and endure Harold Ballard for 2 years, but still it was a home for the Toronto Toros. And it's a strange arena because there's no facade. I mean, it's very hard to have a picture of the outside because it's all mixed. It's put behind the stadium, and there's another building, so you cannot really see the front of the building, but it's there. It's still there in Toronto. So moving on to the Philadelphia Civic Center, a beautiful building built in 1931, very beautiful, but 9,000 seats. Problem was that there was no ice, so they had to put some ice just before the 72 season, and you know the story. The Zamboni got stuck in the ice before the inaugural game, and everybody received a puck. You see the puck in the middle, the red puck, because they tried the red pucks at the WHA. So everybody fired their red puck to the Zamboni, to Derek Sanderson, who was announcing that the game was going to be postponed and everything. So very bad start in Philadelphia. Unfortunately, the team lasted just 1 year. The arena had some success a few years later with the Firebirds in the NAHL, but it was demolished in the 2000s. So sadly, but it was a very, very nice building. You see the roof, the ceiling. It was a very, very beautiful thing to see. The St. Paul Auditorium, built in 32, so it was host to a few Fighting Saints games. The Minnesota Fighting Saints played there in 72 before the new Civic Center was completed. So it's still standing. It's the Roy Wilkins Auditorium. Some of the people who were at St. Paul a few years ago, well, we went to see some roller derby. Where you can see the picture at the bottom right. So we were there. Sorry. You want to move something? Oh, you want to move the box so I don't so I can see the actual dates. Okay, now that's better. Yeah, so people will. You don't have to see me anyway. You just have to see the presentation. All right. Thank you, JP. So a nice old building. I think it's a bit smaller now. They just kept part of the building, but it's still standing today. So moving on after St. Paul, Chicago, Illinois, and the International Amphitheater. So it was home for the Chicago Cougars for 3 seasons. Yeah, so it was built around the stockyards. So there were exhibits of animals and stuff like that. So the odor around the arena was not very good. Jacques Demers said that, how did it smell? It didn't smell good. Okay, so it was also too many political conventions. Well, there's a link in there with the other, but still in '68, that was the famous Democratic Convention. So you see the great policeman of Chicago. And anyway, so it was home for the Cougars for 3 seasons, but yet again, not maybe the best place to play hockey. So it didn't work out in the long term, and it was demolished in 1999. We have still more old barns. Of course, we do Sam Houston Coliseum in Houston, Texas. Actually, the first one burned down, and the new one was built in '37. And of course, owned the Houston Aeros from 72, 75, and Gordie Howe beginning in '73. A great team. They won their first AFCO World Trophy in '74. You can see the picture. So yeah, it was a nice building. People had fun. He had 7,000 or 8,000 people a game. So great atmosphere at the good old Sam Houston Coliseum, also demolished. Cleveland Arena in Cleveland, Ohio. Once again, a good old barn. It was home to the Cleveland Barons of the AHL. Almost got the NHL team. You know the story. Maybe Montreal Canadiens almost moved to Cleveland in those days. So it was home to the Cleveland Crusaders for their first 2 seasons in the WHA. Few more pictures. You can see in the middle Jerry Cheevers, goalie for the Cleveland Crusaders. So the building was closed in '74 after the team left for another new, brand new arena. We'll talk about it later, of course. And it was demolished just a few years later. It was also home of the Cleveland Cavaliers of the National Basketball Association. I don't want to see that, sorry. So those were the old barns built before the Second World War. And now about the ones that built after the Second World War. Not old, but they were not new, of course, when the WHA arrived in '72. Le Colisée de Québec. Now, maintenant, je parle en français, bien sûr, puisque c'est le Colisée de Québec. I won't do that to you, of course. So the Colisée built in '49, the house that Jean Béliveau built. That's how we say it. So 10,000 seats, great building. Of course, the Catholic religion being omnipresent in Quebec in those days, it was opened by a priest. Anyway, so the church was there for the opening. It was, of course, home to the Citadelle, to the Quebec Aces. After that, the Quebec Rempart with the famous Guy Lafleur. And then the Nordic arrived in '72, the first major pro league pro team in Quebec City. Well, since the Quebec Bulldogs, of course. So in '77, you see at the left, J.C. Tremblay taking the official face of the first game. And 5 years later, he's held in triumph by his own fans because, of course, the Nordic won the AFCO World Trophy that year in '77. So the building was expanded in 81. They added 5,000 more seats. And well, it's still standing, but it was closed in 2015 because, of course, we have a new arena in Quebec City, Centre-Théodon. What will happen with the old building, we're not sure yet. Maybe a sports center, but it's not clear. But all the seats have been removed. So for now, it's a storage place. big storage place. So that's the Colisée. Going west in Calgary, the Stampede Coral, built in 1950, 7,000 seats, so a bit smaller than the Colisée. A bit smaller, but the boards were a little bit higher. Maybe you can see it on the picture on the right, but they were a few inches higher than the other arenas. It was also a smaller rink, so the home team had an advantage. So there was a game in '73, the tiebreaker between the Alberta Oilers and the Minnesota Fighting Saints, and unfortunately, Alberta lost, so they changed the name of the team after that to Edmonton Oilers. They didn't play in Calgary again, but Calgary had its own team between '75 and '77, the Calgary Cowboys, of course, since we're at the Stampede. Okay, so yes, the Stampede Coral, yeah, of course, there were the Calgary Flames who arrived in 1980. So it was home to NHL hockey also. I visited the building before it was demolished. Inside the building, there were many pictures of the old days. Even the restrooms, you know, they have a special logo with the cowboy hat. So, and the big mural in front. So unfortunately, the building was demolished last year to the dismay of Lanny McDonald, that's for sure. Of course, the Saddle Dome is still there, but I'm pretty sure they could have kept the old building, but you know how it is. They have to build new stuff every time. So they demolished the old Coral last year. Winnipeg, the Winnipeg Arena, home to many great WHA games. And also the last WHA game in '79. So it was 10,000 seats at first. It was expanded, of course, in '79 when the team went into the NHL. And the main main event, the main part of the arena was, of course, a big portrait of the Queen. Maybe not the only arena at the time, but still in Winnipeg it was huge. You can see it during the '72 Canada-Russia series. And that was the old portrait. There was a new portrait in the '70s. You can see it at the picture on the right. And for some reason, they didn't like it, so they did another one in '78 or '79, something. No, after '79, because at the left, you can see the picture, the last game in '79, the last WHA game. The Jets won the last AFCO trophy, so they kept it. And you can see it's the second portrait. So, and then you add the third one. And of course, the arena was expanded in '79. Closed in 2004 and demolished a few years later, sadly, but again, it's progress. So there you go with the Winnipeg, great hockey place, great arena. Moving on to LA, sunny LA in California, and the LA Memorial Sports Arena, built right across the Memorial Coliseum. So a very modern building. You had a few few cougars at the middle, the car, the animal. So too bad it wasn't against the Chicago Cougars that game, so we would have a lot more cougars on the picture. Anyway, so I'm not worth saying more about the picture. Sorry. And of course, it was owned to the LA Sharks for 2 seasons. Again, didn't work out. It was home for the Olympics boxing in the '84 Olympics and demolished to make way to a new soccer stadium. Oh my God, soccer. Cobo Arena in Detroit, built right next to a big convention center. So there was an arena for many years. It was home of the Detroit Pistons of the National Basketball Association, and also for a WHA team that lasted sadly only a few months because the finances of the team were extremely bad. So the Stags played there a few months. After that, of course, there wasn't any more hockey, I think, or no pro hockey, that's for sure. And now the building is still there, but there's no seating or anything. It's now part of the convention center. Moving on, Baltimore Civic Center, 11,000 seats. Very strange picture in the middle. It's the cover of the magazine. There's a fight and there's a player who is kind of over the, well, it's like a fence. It's not the glass boards. It's or like a mesh. Anyway, so I don't know what's happening there, but still the Baltimore Clippers were very popular in the American Hockey League. They tried to have the same success in WHA. They moved the Michigan franchise there, but then again, only a few months and the Blaze were gone. So, but the building is still there and it's still used. It's the Royal Farms Arena. Long Beach Arena, so circular building is still there. It's still used. Maybe not much for hockey, but yeah, I think there's a few hockey games there. There was a few LA Kings games before the '67 during the '67 preseason, because I think the Forum was not finished yet. There were also, there was a Formula One Grand Prix in the streets of Long Beach, so the paddocks were in the arena. So that's a strange, funny thing. It was home to volleyball in the LA Olympics, and they painted a nice mural on it on the outside. So, but just a few WHA games. Maybe they wanted to share the excitement, but once again, it didn't work out very well. Arizona Veterans Memorial Coliseum in Phoenix, the famous roof. So it's kind of the same building as they built later on in Landover, Maryland, and in Calgary, of course, the Saddle Dome. So it was a great roof. Well, great building also, but the roof is the thing. And they tried something at first, like a smiley face. Not very nice, not very beautiful. I think what happened is that they, for the first anniversary, they put a big candle on it and they broke the roof because of that, because the ceiling, you know, was broke. So after that, they tried many things, and perhaps the best was the bicentennial logo, beautiful logo. They said it was the largest painting in the United States at the time. So, but it's not there anymore. The crack is still there, but not the logo. So it was home of the Phoenix Roadrunners. Of course, they were an old WHL team. They played 3 years of WHA, and then they went back to the Central, the old Central Hockey League. And just a few more of that group. San Diego Sports Arena, beautiful San Diego, home of the Gulls and also the Rockets. Yeah, the Rockets of the NBA before they moved to Houston. So it was home for the Mariners for 3 seasons. So you can see on the picture on the top right, the mesh, the wire mesh. It was there for the first season, but after that they got the glasses like in all the other arenas. Ottawa Civic Center, 1967 for the centennial. Interesting arena because it's built under the stands of the football stadium. So there's the arena, and on top of it, there are the stands for the CFL team. So there was, of course, they got their junior team, the Ottawa 67, with the new arena, and it was also where the first ever WHA game was played in '72. And the only arena with 3 teams. So the Nationals played there in '72, '73, except the playoffs that were played in Toronto. And then the Toronto Toros played some playoffs there, playoff game in '74. And then there were the Ottawa Civics, the poor Civics who played only 2 games. They were, of course, the old Denver Spurs. They still had the Denver Spurs jerseys. And you can see it was a full house. There were big crowds, but the team was such in a very, very bad financial situation that only after, even if the crowds were good, it was decided at the time to stop everything. So sadly, that was the end of pro hockey in Ottawa for the time, because of course the Senators played there at the Civic Center. So you can send a picture, lots of stands on one side and not many stands on the other, because over that side, of course, there's a football stadium over it. Now, the new arenas, most of them were built, you know, for the WHA teams, because they knew there was going to be a WHA team. Sometimes, of course, there was an ABA or NBA team, but these were all brand new for the WHA. So the real WHA arenas, the first one, St. Paul, the Civic Center, beautiful building. They called it the Madison Square Garden of the West or something like that, because they were so proud of it. And of course, the glass boards on the arena after Grenoble, the 68 games. Why did they put glass boards? Well, look at the picture on the right. See the seats, how they were built. It's like a round arena. The seats are very low. So the people in the front rows could not have seen anything with the ordinary boards. So they had to put glass boards. That's why it's not because it was fancy or because they like it. It's really because they had no choice but to put those kind of boards. And after that, of course, after the Fighting Saints were gone, they tried to put some advertisement, and of course, people could not see anything anymore. So, okay, let's build another arena. So they built another arena at the same place, the arena that the Minnesota Wild is playing now. But before that, of course, they had some success with the Fighting Saints. They had the All-Star game, but still not enough. I mean, it's not a huge market. Minnesota, Minneapolis, St. Paul, Bloomington. So they already had the North Star. So maybe that was one team too many. So the arena was demolished in '98. Too bad. Northlands Coliseum, I talked a little bit about it early on. So it was built '74, the impossible dream, as they said, going from the old Edmonton Gardens to this one. If you think it looks like the Pacific Coliseum, it's because it was the same architect. So they, I think they use the same plans or maybe most of it. And it was home of two WHA All-Star games. Actually, the second one was a 3-game series against Dynamo Kiev. And of course, it was the time when Wayne Gretzky and Gordie Howe played together on the same team. This arena will have, of course, a lot of success a few years later on in the NHL. But it was closed in 2017, and its future is quite uncertain at the time. Market Square Arena in Indianapolis. So they had a new team in Indianapolis for the 74 season, the Racers. They also had the Pacers. So Pacers, Racers, there's something there. So Market Square Arena, beautiful building, once again, 60,000 seats, very good acoustics, not big crowds, but when they had big crowds, it was really a very exciting place to play. So the Racers, unfortunately, didn't play there. Well, they folded during the 78-79 season, so I should have written 78 and not 79. But it was still 99. And yeah, it was imploded and it worked that time. It worked better than in Edmonton. So it was also the site of the last Elvis Presley concert in 77. So there's a plaque. It's the only thing that remains from Market Square Arena, the plaque of the last concert of Elvis. Richfield Coliseum, perhaps the biggest, the nicest, the greatest arenas of them all. It was a brainchild of Nick Miletti, the owner of the Cleveland Crusaders and also the Cleveland Cavaliers. It was a great arena with maybe the first with boxes, private boxes. It had everything. It was the greatest maybe arena ever built. But it was built very far from Cleveland in Richfield, in the middle of nowhere. You can see it on the picture on the left. I mean, there was nothing, absolutely nothing around it, just one road. You imagine when there was a big crowd, everybody trying to get to the arena at the same time. It was terrible. So, of course, it didn't work for the WHA. It worked a little for the Cavaliers, but still they demolished this beautiful arena in 1999. Riverfront Coliseum, Cincinnati. So they had a new team. The team was supposed to play 74, but the arena was not completed yet. So they waited a year. So the team played from 75 to 79. The building still exists. It's the Heritage Bank Center. It was built right across the, well, just near the Riverfront Stadium. So, and you could actually see it when you were watching WKRP in Cincinnati, the famous TV show. Bottom left, the white thing, that's the Riverfront Coliseum. So you could see it every day on TV. 79 was a very bad year for the Riverfront Coliseum. The team moved, actually, the team did not move to the NHL. The team owner decided not to go, so the fans were very upset. And a few weeks, months later, there was a huge stampede before the Who, the concert, so 11 young people died. That's a very sad thing that happened during that at the Riverfront Coliseum, and it seems like it's still hanging around the arena. No pro teams playing there since then. So, well, a few concerts, of course, but we still remember that very sad day at the Riverfront Coliseum. Hartford Civic Center. I have the right jersey for that, of course. The Hartford Whalers, the New England Whalers. They played there in 75 to 79. Of course, they had to change their name in 79 because Boston wasn't happy with that name. So when they moved to when they get into the NHL, they became the Hartford Whalers. They moved from Boston to Hartford because there was a new arena that was built, in fact, for the ABA. They wanted the ABA team, the American Basketball Association, but it didn't work out. So why not the hockey team? And so they moved there in 75. There was interesting thing about this arena. It was built well, there's a shopping mall around it. So you had the Hartford Whalers boutique store, so maybe the first team to have a team store. So a very interesting concept, interesting building. Unfortunately, very flawed building because the roof collapsed. in January 18. Thank God there was nobody inside. There was a basketball game, college basketball game a few hours before. So it would have been a terrible, terrible thing. But there was a snow, of course, but also very bad design. Computers were starting and they just got the wrong numbers. The roof could not stand its own weight. So the good thing is that it was owned by insurance companies, so they had insurance. So they rebuilt it, and they rebuilt it much bigger. So they rebuilt it with 15,000 seats. So when the team moved to the NHL, it was okay, but it wasn't ready for the first games in 1979. So they played a little bit in Springfield. We'll see about that in a few moments. The building is still there. It's used at the Excel Center. Denver, Colorado, McNichols Sports Arena. Of course, they had a basketball team, very popular team, the Nuggets. And why not the hockey team? They had the Denver Spurs and the old Western Hockey League. So they tried a few weeks, months in the WHA, but it didn't work. So it didn't last. And strangely enough, they got an NHL team just a few months, weeks after that. So go figure why they tried hockey in Colorado so many times. Did it work at the time? And of course, it worked the next time when the Avalanche came into town in '95. And the building, of course, they won the Stanley Cup their first year. And the building was demolished in 2000, but still great memories at the Big Mac. That's how they called it. The summit in Houston, Texas. I talked about the good old Sam Houston Coliseum. It was a bit small, so they built a new arena, beautiful arena, large arena, Texas-style arena. They had some great hockey games there. They had still a great team with the Heroes. But then again, they tried to join the NHL, didn't work out, so the team just stopped Operation 78. There was a indoor soccer team that was named the Summit because they used some hurricane. The Hurricanes were in the North American Soccer League, but there was also a major indoor soccer league. So they used the same players, but in a different name. So the name of the team for indoor soccer was the Summit. And it's now a church. So yes, a huge church, a Texas-style church. You can see the pictures. I mean, there's a lot more people in that church than the one at my place in Montreal, that's for sure. And voila, so the Summit, it's still standing, but as a church. Finally, in Birmingham, Jefferson Civic Coliseum, built in '76, and we talked about the Toros. Things were not going well in Toronto, so Mr. Bassett moved the team to Birmingham, the Old South. But in a new arena, so they played there for 3 seasons. They had a few preseason games against the Atlanta Flames, so kind of a rivalry between the Atlanta and Birmingham. So, but still, I mean, the crowds were not big enough, and when there was the merger between the WHA and the NHL, Birmingham decided not to follow the other teams, so it became a CGL team for a few months or years. So it's still used at the Legacy Arena. It was all refurbished. You know, you can see that doesn't look like a 70s arena anymore, more like a 2000s arena. It's almost done, almost done. Lastly, but not least, a few arenas, and it makes you wonder if they really played there. Yes, they played there. They played in Cherry Hill Arena in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Probably the worst arena ever in the story of major hockey, major pro hockey. It was small. There was no locker room for the visiting team. So they had to put their gear at the hotel and arrive in the bus. And after the game, they had to go back in the bus with all their gear and everything. The ice was slanted, you know, that was not at grade. There was in the middle, you know, like a big hump in the middle of the ice. So sometimes the puck would hit the hump and go in the face of another player. It was terrible. Why did they play there? We don't know. It's because, of course, it didn't work out in New York, in Madison Square Garden. So they moved there quickly as possible, and they played a few months, the rest of the season. You can see on the right, they didn't have their jerseys for the first games, you know. It's the others against, I don't know who, probably the Jersey Knights, but we're not sure because they don't have a jersey. Finally, they found out the old Raiders jersey. They put a new logo on it, and they lasted one season, but one season too many. Springfield, no, that's the wrong picture. Sorry, not the real Springfield Center, Civic Center, not that one, not that Springfield, the other Springfield, Massachusetts. Oh, it's a nice arena. I mean, it's a beautiful. It's small. It's 8,000 seats, but I mean, without the roof falling down in Hartford, I'm pretty sure they would have never played there. But they had to find a place quick. And they found it just a few days after the roof fell in Hartford. They started playing in Springfield for parts of 2 or 3 seasons. It was a 91 club because, of course, people had to take the 91 highway to get to the Springfield. They had shuttles. They had a little diploma to the fans who made the trek. And that's where Gordie Howe played where he had his 50th anniversary. And the person who made the cake, the face is black, you know, so they call it the Jamaican Gordie Howe. not a good cake, not a good cake at all. So I think there's still one left. Yes, this one was built in 72, and the last one was built just a year or 2 later. Yes, there was a game in the shopping center, not the kind of Hartford, no, really a real shopping center. In Parker's, the Twin Ice Arena in Mount Prospect, Illinois. What happened is that the Cougars, they had a great playoff run in 74. The problem was that the amphitheater was not available, and Chicago Stadium was not available, and nothing was available. So they played somewhere in the shopping center, and the finals were played in the shopping center in front of, I don't know, 1,500 fans or 2,000 fans. So they were quite excited, as you can see, but still, I mean, to play a final in that sort of arena, unfortunately, it was a black eye for the WHA. It's now at Home Depot. So yes, in a nutshell, that's the story of the WHA. You know, it's a great league, great stories, great teams, great players, but sometimes not so great arenas. So there you have it. And of course, like we said, early on, this is the 50th anniversary of the WHA. So they will be meeting in Quebec City, September 30, October 1st. If you want more information, just write me an email and I'll tell you what to do. There's also a big meeting in Whistler and in October 6 to 9, and probably Las Vegas. We're not sure yet, but so maybe 3 meetings for the 50th anniversary of that famous major pro league. There you go. I think we lost all the time that we won the first time. Sorry, question.
I might have missed it, but did you show the old one at Cherry Hill, New Jersey?
Yeah, that was the third before the all the bad things I said. That was a Cherry Hill Arena.
What was the team? New Jersey?
Jersey. It was a Jersey Knights, not the New Jersey Knights. It was a Jersey Knights. But before that, you had the Jersey Devils, the old ones. They played there a few seasons.
How many of these arenas have you actually been to?
Not much. Maybe 3 or 4, but there were so many demolished, so I had to go back in time to visit them. Tough thing to do. Yes.
Well, you mentioned the one in Phoenix is still there.
Yes.
Did the Coyotes ever explore that one, or is part of their?
They should. I mean, why play in this extremely small new arena? They're going to. Why didn't they choose to play there? I don't know.
The Coliseum actually rejected them.
Oh, they rejected them. Okay, so that makes sense or not, or I don't know. Yeah. No, that is.
Besides the Colisée, which was used for the entire duration of the WHA, which stadium was used the longest for the WHA?
Well, Winnipeg Arena, Quebec Colisée, I think they're the only two that were used for every year, every season.
So after that, which one was the longest?
Good question, because Edmonton, they played 5 seasons. Minnesota, they played parts of 5 seasons, but with 2 different Fighting Saints teams. There were the Fighting Saints, and then the Cleveland Crusaders became the new Fighting Saints. They changed the colors, but it was the same team and the same result. They folded they called them the Folding Saints because they folded 2-3 seasons.
If I counted right, there were like 3 arenas that were smaller in terms of seats than where the Arizona Coyotes will be playing next year. That's right.
Well, I don't know if it's a good thing, but it's quite possible. Yes, yes.
That's what,
Yes.
you update me on the 3 reunions, the Quebec one, the other 2, you informed the last one may not even happen.
Well, I don't have all the information. Well, I don't want, of course, to talk badly about any people, but I don't have the information about Vegas. So it was supposed to be a big thing, and then things happened. So I don't have much information about the Vegas event. So at the moment, I cannot tell you go there and register and stuff like that because there's no place yet to register. Whistler, you can check it out on the internet. It's very easy to find a website. I will be going to Whistler, so I've arranged everything. My hotel room is booked and everything, so I'll be there. And Quebec City, it's only been a few days or weeks since we have opened the registration. So the address is a bit difficult. So maybe the easiest way just to write me. I'm sure my address is somewhere or in the bulletin. You can, if you read the bulletin, my email address is there, so you can just write me a note. And we have a Facebook page also, IMASH WHA. WHA is French. In French is IMASH. So IMASH WHA 50-50. 50 years, yeah. 50. Yes. More question, Frank. Sorry.
Yeah, in Arizona, in Arizona, there was a saddle shape.
Yeah.
That's it. That's sort of a simple engineering construction because you don't have to bend anything.
Yeah.
It's called a hyperbolic parabola. Anyways, I'm interested in that. Why aren't there more of those?
Well, it's a great question. Yeah, it's a very good
It's simple to
design.
build and save.
Yeah, but I mean, there's so many things to consider. Maybe I think that one of the problems with that kind of roof is that the way it's built. I've never been inside Saddle Dome. I wish I could have visited it, but sometimes you're in the building and you don't see the people on the other side, maybe because of the way the roof is made. So maybe that's the one reason they don't build that many.
Yeah, snow is.
Maybe it's better to have a roof like that so you can have the atmosphere. You can see the big TVs, that hanging out in the center with that kind. Well, they had one in Landover, so I guess they can do it also.
If it's snowing, removal of snow is easy.
Yeah, well, I mean, there are so many ways. Well, of course, better than Hartford, that's for sure. Yes, Fred.
I had a chance to see the Whalers and the Oilers in Edmonton, I think in the mid-70s at the Northlands Coliseum. It was the first time that I became aware of hockey being marketed as a culture. It wasn't just about the hockey game, it was about the experience. I mean, it was deafening rock and roll music during the warm-up. There was a whole vibe and culture to the WHA that I hadn't seen at NHL arenas previously. I wonder if you had any comment about, the cultural contribution of the WHA to the NHL as we know it today.
Well, I mean, they tried a few things because I mean they wanted to start you start a new league, you're trying some things, you had overtime, which was not the case in the NHL at that time. Yeah, they had all kind of gimmicks that you saw the girls at the Vancouver games. They tried to attract young people. Yeah, maybe I haven't read about things like that. But at Edmonton, I mean, you saw the first arena they had. It was so small, so old. So to have that new arena, and they built it with 15,000, but there was space to add more seats. They knew that maybe one day they would get into the NHL. So when they did, they just had to put a few seats. It took only a few weeks, and there you go. You had your 17 or 18,000 seat arena. They were ready. They had Wayne Gretzky. That helps also.
All right, so that, just for people that couldn't read the Zoom, there was a little post by William saying that the arena in Richfield was put there because it was halfway between Cleveland and Akron.
Yeah, that's
And the theory was you draw from both, and of course, they drew from neither.
of course the land was cheaper also, I guess. So we put so much money into the arena itself that he had no money for the. I mean, he was a great. He had lots of ideas, Mr. Miletti, but not that much money. So unfortunately, he lost everything. In the end, he lost his teams, lost the arena and everything. So too bad. Yeah, the people didn't come, and of course the weather in Ohio is not very good during the winter. So people ask themselves, do I risk killing myself on the icy road, or do I stay at home? That's what the people ask themselves. I'm not joking. The first event at Richfield was a Frank Sinatra concert, and there was so many cars that people had to park their cars miles from the arena and walk to the arena to see the concert, like in Woodstock, you know. All right.
Great, thanks. Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Stop
We're
here.
almost on time.
Oh, yeah. So